It's finally time. Well, not finally time, but today I can compare That's a Phrase 1 to the newest game in the series till the next one comes out, Security Breach. Oh yes, Five Nights at Freddy's. A game series that I had kind of mixed feelings but also not mixed feelings about the series. The first one, which comparing to, I thought it was pretty good. The second, third, and fourth one, I thought it was kind of interesting, but not as good as the first one. Sister Location, well, I thought it was okay. It was a bit of a letdown. Pizza is similar, I also found it interesting, but also a bit of a letdown. And UCN Help Wanted were kind of confusing for me. And the rest of the games, I will more likely forget about them as times go on. Anyways, this leads us to Security Breach. Now, Fnaf 1 versus Beginning. Let's begin. Now, story. The story about Fnaf 1 is that a security guard is hired at Freddy Brasher's pizza location. Once he discovers the mysteries of this place, he has to survive against 5 nights. Against 5 or 6 if you count Enduro 1 animatronics, or you don't count Enduro 1. Anyways, he has to survive against a bear, a bunny, a chicken, a fox, and a golden version of a bear named Golden Freddy. Surviving the 5 nights will be difficult for him, but once he beats the 6th and 7th night, for some reason, Mike Smith, is fired for tampering animatronics and odor. Onto Security Breach. We see the animatronics on stage: Grandma Freddy, Grandma Chica, Roxanne Wolf, and Montgomery Gator. But unfortunately, Vanny had hacked the animatronics. And this is helped by our main player of the game, now inside Freddy's chest cavity, as the main player of the game is Gregory. Same thing in the first game's players who must survive a multi-booth of animatronics and actually survive the game. Of course, she gets to the daycare, survives against Moondrop, aka the daycare attendant. Unfortunately, he gets her banned from the daycare. And Gregory has to survive against the rest of the animatronics and actually beats all of them, including Afton. Now, this is kind of similar except for the middle and ending of the games. One thing I actually do is Freddy Fazbear in Security Breach can actually help you when Fnaf 1 was trying to hunt you down. And I like that change. It's a good, but the story later on the Security Breach gets confusing for a little until we get right till the end. And trust me, this game has a few endings. Fnaf 1, I was kind of interested, but also not at the same time. But if I had to choose which story of the games I'd choose, it had to be Security Breach. Not only did I like it better, but I was interested much more than Fnaf 1. And plus, the only problem I had with the story is that it was a little, it was kind of, had a little bit of interested stuff in the middle of the game, but once we almost get to the ending, or endings, depending on which one I talk about, probably one of them. Once we get to ending, once we almost get to true ending, I get more interested. So, the game I feel like has far better story is Security Breach. It's time for the gameplay. Now, the gameplay of Fnaf 1 is practically very obvious. You survive against security cameras, and the only way to survive against animatronics is you shut the doors, or with Foxy, check on Pirate's Cove. Of course, with the game called Five Nights at Freddy's, that's what you do in the first game. Security Breach have to roll on the Pizzaplex, but also being how to use Freddy. Now, the biggest problem I have with the first game's gameplay is that it's not as scary as the other ones. I mean, it's because I already know what's gonna happen to the player if it doesn't shut the doors or check enough of the cameras. The gameplay of the Security Breach, I kinda know, but there's only one thing. I think the gameplay in FNAF 1 is much more interesting to me, and for two reasons. One, FNAF 1, besides being 7 years old, I find it much more interesting way to check the cameras and shut the doors rather than having to roam around the place. Two, I think it was a much more epic spirit kind of gameplay. But here's the thing. Security Breach gameplay is fine, but sometimes I feel like when I saw the game, I realized there was glitches and crashes and all that stuff. So, without a doubt, the gameplay I found better at is, of course, FNAF 1. Now it's time to talk about of course, the players of the game. In FNAF 1, again, we introduced to Mike Smith, a security guard who works at Fazbear's Pizza to survive against the animatronics. Now, unfortunately, he doesn't have much story. In the gameplay for Security Breach, we have our player Gregory. Now, which one of these players I think is more interesting and has a more interesting story? Well, it had to be Gregory from Security Breach. I think she has I have a much better understanding of why you play as Gregory in the game and not a security guard. Being a security guard again is fine, but it's an old thing now. The only thing I like about Mike Smith is that he's real he's thought out to be Michael Afton, which makes sense since their both first names are Mike. But besides that thought, I found it kind of be a boring, playable character. So So the playable character I found better is Gregory from Security Breach. Alright, now it's time to talk about the animatronics. Now, as for our chicas, the biggest letdown I have for Grandma Chica is that she doesn't seem that scary to me as original Chica. To me, original Chica was scary and a little bit more scary and much more interesting. Well, Grandma Chica just seemed kind of bland to me. Grandma, and I was a little irritated of her voice lines. Now let's talk about Roxanne Wolf and, of course, Foxy. Now, Foxy is sort of fun to me, but she's not as fun to see than Roxanne Wolf. I mean, I do like her. This one is not a challenge. I far prefer Roxanne Wolf over Foxy. Now it's time to talk about the other animatronic, Bonnie or Montgomery Gator. Truth is, I chose Bonnie over Montgomery Gator. One, his design looks much better. His design I like much more better. Though Montgomery Gator, I find the design would be cool, but not as cool. But I don't find it as good as Bonnie's design. And two, I kinda miss Bonnie not being in the series, besides Bonnie's bowling alley. Besides that, I kinda miss him. And far I do prefer him over Montgomery Gator. Now it's time to talk about the other animatronic. And let me tell you, Golden Freddy, I have one thing to say, is that he's kind of disappointment of theories and mysteries. Golden Freddy is now a letdown thanks to Matt Pat. I know what else to say, but going in, he's not actually anymore. I fought for the other animatronics with Security Breach and Sun and Moon are a bit of a letdown, but at least I can find it interesting. At least I'm glad there hasn't been any fears about them. Well, at least maybe not yet. And I like the addition added a version of Music Man called the DJ. Rock on, DJ. And then we go to acting, also known as Burn Trap game. Seriously, I mean, come on, really? Another form of Spring Trap? First Springtrap, then Scrap Trap, and then Glitch Trap, and now Burn Trap. Oh wait, that's Spring by 5. 5 forms of the Springtrap suit. Anyways, this character I find kind of cool because it's William Afton, but he's Burn Trap. I mean, come on. So he animatronics some. I like them better in Fnaf 1. Now, it's time for the grand moment. It's time for a moment you all been waiting for. Okay, I can't continue on the SpongeBob vein. Here's the Freddy Fazbear's. Now, Fnaf 1, Freddy Fazbear was, of course, intimidating to me and kind of surprised me with the scare factor. But, on the other hand, I do like the Grand Block Freddy better. I don't know, it seems more interesting. I kind of like his voice line better compared to Freddy Fazbear's, where didn't feel like it sounded like Freddy to me. So if I had to choose which Freddy I found better, it would be Grand Block Freddy from Security Breach. Now, it's time for a couple more of these games. It's time to compare the fear factor of these games. And of course, we finish off with which, of course, true ending is better. That's right, true endings. I'm not going to do every ending of Security Breach. It's time for this. It's time to compare this scare. Specifically the jump scares. Now, the jump scares in the first game were kind of interesting to me, but come on, I know it's gonna be a repeated stuff and this rest of the series, especially Security Breach, but yeah, the jump scares to me are not as scary just because it's just the animatronics face in your face. And of course, I think the jump scares in Scary Breach just sound much more scary. One, this is the sound, and two, I like how the jump scares are set up. Now, fun fact: FNAF 1 jump scare is actually FNAF 1 jump scare sound is actually, of course, is actually taken from a 1980s movie. Don't believe me this? Then, of course, you'll believe me. Well, when you don't believe me, then listen closely. And you can actually try to hear the sound. Of course, some people thought it came from something else, but I realized it came from an 80s movie. So, the game I thought it would have a better jump scare is, of course, Security Breach. Now it's time for the ending. The true endings of the games. It's time to see what better endings there were. Before that, I had to go to the soundtrack. This will be the last one before I can conclude with the endings and have my final thoughts of these games. Soundtrack for FNAF 1, it sounds pretty good, but it doesn't sound as good as Security Breach. That's right, I found Security Breach much more interesting and much more better than FNAF 1 soundtrack. And I thought all of the soundtracks, except for a few hiccups, were really, really good. Some of the sound of the music I wasn't expecting from the game. So far, the soundtrack for me is Security Breach. Now, let's for the conclusions of the game and see which true ending is better. endings can be a tough one. Let's see I found which one is better. And of course, surprise, I like Security Breach ending. 1, to me it ends the series very well. 2, it actually proves that there's more gonna be another game to the series. And 3, I think the ending actually matches the end of the series compared to any other endings I saw. But to top it all off, I feel like this ending finally matches the game. Fnaf 1 ending is just your usual ending to the series. Yeah, so finally, final thoughts. What I think of the game? Well, which game I thought was better? Well, I have to go with Security Breach. Besides a few flaws, I found Security Breach a lot better. I found the Freddy Fazbear to be better. I found the gameplay to be better. I found the jump scares to be better, and found the ending to be better. Sure, I found some things in FNAF 1 to be a Security Breach, but not enough time is said. For the scores, FNAF 1 takes a 7 to 100, and FNAF Security Breach takes a 95 to 100. And that's my comparison to FNAF 1 to Security Breach. Be tuned in because I have one more video for this series. Unless until I cover the next game. But I'm at the God Guy, and see you soon. Bye.